So I want to give an overview of what has been going on in the project. The details, as I said, will be given by the different researchers. But so let me just complement that. So CompMusic is a project funded by the European Commission, and it's now in its middle stage. It's a 5-year project, and so this is basically halfway through, and so it's a good moment to see what has been happening and see if we have to do any major changes to our project for finishing successfully. So one of the things that we would really like is to get feedback in things that we could still be doing in these next 2.5 years. And that could be of relevance for these musical traditions that we work on. So I think it's kind of a good mid-term kind of evaluation by you or by people that are involved in the project. Okay, so I will just give some introduction, some numbers, and some ideas of the project. I will focus on the Researchcorpora. This has been one major effort in our project. I would say the biggest effort has been dedicated to that, and I will mention that. And then I will basically go very quickly through some of the topics that then people will talk about, even though some they're not being worked in Indian music, so they will not be talked. So then I will talk about some aspects that are being worked on by studying other music traditions other than Indian classical music. So let's start. So first, some numbers so that you get an idea of what we're talking about the project. This is a large project. This is the largest I have ever been involved with. It started, as I said, in July 2011, and it will finish in July 2016. So also that's a quite 5 years. I think it's a good time span to really accomplish important things. We cannot, I cannot excuse myself saying that we didn't have enough time to do things. In 5 years, you can do a lot of things. So we cannot have that excuse. And the funding is pretty good. I mean, it's one of the research initiatives in Europe that are best funded. In euros, it's 2.5 million euros. And that's a lot of money that if used correctly, we can have a large impact, and that's what is expected from us. So hopefully we will be able to deliver that. And so that means that we have been able to involve a lot of researchers, much more than any research project that in our areas. Of course, there is some in many disciplines that are more accustomed to do very large projects, but in our areas that's not that common. So basically, there are around 30 researchers in our group, plus the groups that we collaborate working in these topics, and that's large. For me, it's very large. And of course, it's a very academic project. It's meant to be kind of basic research or geared towards having an academic impact. So publications is a very important outcome of the project. And we have been doing quite good on that. In 2.5 years, we already have published 60 articles. Now, a special issue of the Journal of Music Research will appear with quite a bit of the current outcomes and scopes of the project. So that's going to be a very important thing. We have been organizing a lot of events and small seminars, but mainly this we have organized 3 workshops. So the first one was in India near Delhi. The second one was in Istanbul in Turkey, and now this one. So that's also pretty good. And I have been quite surprised how big the impact has been in the academic community that relates to these topics, which is what we call the music information retrieval community. This is a very active research community that is quite new, and our project has been received very, very warmly, and it has been having a lot of impact in rethinking a lot of the research and the the scope and ideas that the community is having. So I am very, very proud to see that many people have been influenced by what we are doing. So I think, so basically in general I would say that the numbers are good, and we are happy that we are doing good work and it's well recognized. Let me just a little bit talk about the general area of what we're working on. We're basically working on data processing topics. You know, the area that we come from is the area of starting from data and then trying to make sense out of that. And a big trend nowadays in this data processing field is to go from the traditional data processing technologies, basically doing some machine learning, pattern matching type of approaches, signal processing approaches that are kind of blind, and that they treat data as any type of data in the same way. They just try to find patterns in that, going towards more what is called a knowledge-driven approach. So that means that not all the data can be treated the same way. In biology, for example, we cannot treat the DNA sequence like a series of letters. We have to treat it by understanding what these DNA sequences are about, and try to bring in some knowledge of these data, so that we can then classify, retrieve, organize this data in a more appropriate way. And that's what we're trying. So audio music cannot be treated as stock market data, cannot be treated as DNA sequences. Music has to be treated as specifically understanding music, and even more, not all the musics of the world are the same, and so every music has to be treated appropriately and has to be studied by understanding the music that we are working on. So that's basically that's the reason why this project was born, and why we are working on musics like Indian classical music. And all this type of research has a set of steps or issues that are worked on. So normally the first thing you always do is identify a problem. Then what you do is to collect some data that captures the reality of the problem you want to work on. So you want to gather some data that is representative for the problem to be studied. Then you develop some methodology, or use some methodology with which to process that data. And finally, you evaluate. You find a way to check how well this methodology and this problem definition has been done, and so if your results are okay for that particular context. In our case, our problem, we had to narrow it down, of course. That's one of the most frustrating things as scientists and engineers, especially by people from outside, and in this case by musicians, is that we really have to narrow our problems. We cannot really tackle everything, and we have to define something very narrowly. Hopefully, not narrow enough that it cannot be of relevance, but narrow enough that can be treated with our methodological approaches in our field. So in our case, we basically have focused in two musical aspects. The aspects related with melody, and therefore trying to analyze data that captures these melodical aspects, and every tradition might have different ways to capture this melody aspect. It can be a score, it can be the pitch track, it can be analyzed from a recording. There's several ways we can try to address the issue of melody. And the other is rhythm. So the same, trying to analyze rhythm and trying to use some data that can capture that rhythm aspect. We also have done other things, but basically this is the two major things. And therefore, we have been trying to gather data that can be of relevance to study this. And we typically, when we work in our engineering approach, we always think of data as just the audio. audio is our data source by excellence, and we tend to forget about all the other things. And one of these ideas behind these knowledge-driven approaches is that it's not enough. By looking at audio, there is no way we can understand music. Music is too complex to just analyze a sequence of numbers expressing the waveform of a signal and expect to learn something about music just from that. So we have been trying to expand the concept of data to a multiplicity of data sources, which includes, of course, all the editorial metadata that accompanies a recording, that includes all the text that has been talked about and written about the artist or about the pieces, includes the lyrics, so trying to expand that, and of course includes also all the analysis that we do and the data that can be extracted automatically from these basically supplied data by different sources. So data, that's our the data that we have been trying to compile. Methodologies, okay, in our field, I would say that traditionally has been very much centered in signal processing. Signal processing has been the area of research that has been used to understand and extract meaning from audio signals. The more recently, in the last 10, 15 years, machine learning has been the biggest kind of area of methodological research and approaches that has been brought in to make sense of that. So with machine learning, we can take basically user data, we can take labels, we can take structure information from which we can then learn and extract more higher level concepts than we just signal processing. So machine learning is definitely, I would say, the main kind of methodology that has allowed us to advance towards higher level understanding and going towards this more knowledge-driven type of approach. And finally, the most recent one, which we have not worked much on it, but you will hear some presentations on, is all the semantic web and semantic analysis type of technologies and ontologies and things like this, and you will hear some of that. So basically, these are the three core engineering disciplines that we are brought in. Our approach is always that we are interested in solving a problem, so then that means that sometimes we do not have the knowledge of a particular methodological approach, and we have to go and gather it and find collaboration. So a very important aspect for us is to find researchers, collaborators, specialists in these different disciplines that can help us in understanding maybe some aspect that we are not experts on, but that is fundamental for our problem, in this case of music understanding and music analysis. And finally, the evaluation. Evaluation is always a very difficult task in our field, in information processing in general, information retrieval. How do you evaluate? Until now, most of the evaluations done are very narrow. You define a very small problem, very small task. You define a ground truth, a data set, and a test set, and you evaluate with that with very simple metrics. Clearly, that's not appropriate for when we want to do music understanding and music analysis at the level we want to. So we have to find ways to evaluate our tools, our technologies, our research more at the system level. And this is why we have put emphasis on developing a tool, the web browser, basically, in which we are putting most of our tools, with which actual users can check these tools and can help us evaluate and be able to decide how well these technologies are. So our evaluation is definitely more at the system level, and of course there is some specific task with which we can do very narrow evaluation, but in general the idea is to do more this user level evaluation, system level evaluation. That's hard. Again, that's not an area that we come from, and the user evaluation, user experiments it's a difficult task to do. but that's what we are starting to be doing, and we will be doing with now the tool that we have to show it. Okay, so this is basically the kinds of areas that we are involved in. So now going to the main aspect that I mentioned is this research corpora, the data that we have to start with. And that's not an easy one, because we have to develop, gather corpora, data, that is representative of the phenomenon that we want to work. And music, what is the data that can capture a phenomenon, that's quite complex. And in our field, in music information retrieval, typically people just gather data from online sources or from very kind of content providers that include all kinds of music. It tends to be very noisy. It tends to have a lot of errors in the way the music is gathered. So we wanted to be able to work with corpora that were really meaningful and that allowed us to do this more knowledge-driven approach. So we decided in focusing on 5 music traditions that had a set of particularities that allow us to develop these corpora that were really meaningful. So, of course, we're working on the two, as I said, the two Indian classical traditions, Carnatic and Hindustani. We are also working on makam music of Turkey, on Beijing Opera, and finally on Arab-Andalusian music from the Maghreb. I'm not going to talk much about that. A little bit when I mentioned some of the research topics, that's not an issue. But, of course, the main idea is, again, the recording is our core data. As I said, we are complementing that, but the core sort of entity in our corpus are these recordings. So the collection of these recordings was a very important one. So right now, these are some of the numbers that we have. Oh, no. So in terms of recordings, these are some of the numbers. So for Carnatic music, compared with some other fields, these are very small corpora. So we want to extend them. But with this, we can do quite a bit of things. And you will see a number of our research results are based on using this corpora. So in Carnatic music, we have 397 hours. In Hindustani, 271. In Makam, Turkey, 259 hours of recordings. And in Beijing Opera and in Arab-Andalusian, these are the two traditions that have been worked more recently. We have started on them more recently, so we don't have that many results yet, and the corpora is also not that good. In fact, the reason why we are here and why we are focusing on Carnatic music is because, in fact, it's a tradition that we have worked the most and for which we have most of the results. So this is a good example to show the results of our project by focusing on the Carnatic music. So in this research corpora, there are certain issues to how to build them, and the criteria that we have used to build them. There are many, but this is kind of the main aspects that we have tried to pay attention to. The first one was the purpose. Okay, so we, as I said, we couldn't do everything, so we decided to focus on these melodic and rhythmic aspects. That meant that our corpora had to be in a certain way. So, for example, in the case of Indian music, we mainly have focused on vocal music because those are the recordings from which the melodic aspects, of course, with the percussion accompaniment, in which the melodic aspects were kind of easier to identify using the state-of-the-art technologies. But anyway, so the purpose was a very important aspect with which then we defined the corpora. Coverage, that's a very difficult issue. Basically, we want to develop a corpora that represents a given music tradition. So in this case, we want to develop a corpora that represents the variety of things that are being done in Carnatic music, of different styles, of course, of all the ragas, of the different talas and different ways, different schools that are active nowadays and that represent what Carnatic music is today. Completeness, this refers more of how complete, how is all the information that surrounds this audio recording. That's not easy. When we buy CDs, there is quite a bit of information, especially in Carnatic music, but there is always missing information of like when was even the concert performed, or sometimes even the rag and tala is not specified, or many things are not given. So we really want to make sure that all the data surrounding an audio recording is complete. And this has been, as I said, one major effort. Quality, that's of course an important issue. There is a lot of recordings in Carnatic music that are live recordings, bootlegs done by people, but the quality tends to be not so good. And for research, we want to analyze the audio. Yeah, we really need decent audio quality. So that also has been a concern. So basically, have focused on commercial CD recordings that we have been able to buy and collect. And in fact, most of them, in the case of Carnatic music, comes from Charsur, which has a very good audio collection. And finally, a last and equally important aspect is that in research, a fundamental issue is to be able to share the results, the data, so other people can reproduce our results. And that in music has always been a nightmare because of copyright issues. The sharing of data, and in this, mainly the audio, has been a nightmare, and this has prevented advancement of our field quite a bit. So we are trying to go beyond that, and of course trying to collaborate with content providers, with record companies, and do it in a way that, even though we want to use these collections for research, but we want to be able to share it with other researchers for research. And that's always a touchy issue that we have to pay attention to that. And as I said, if this is solved, the research can advance a lot, because then many other people will be able to use that. Okay, in terms of what the corpora has, apart from the audio, let me just go very quickly to other types of data sources that we also have. One, which is generated automatically, is the audio features. So basically all our collection, and as you will see, has been analyzed with the standard kind of descriptors, low-level audio descriptors that current state-of-the-art technologies allow. So we are using a library, Essentia, which is open source and that is available, and that extracts a lot of things. And these are data that then it's part of the corpora, and then you can analyze and extract things. Maybe the most important accompanying information of the audio is the editorial metadata, the data that is on the CDs. And that's is not normally available in machine-readable form. The record companies don't put that online. And this is too bad, because it's not so hard for people to put it online, and normally when you find it normal on the web, the quality of that is available, the CDs, is very, very poor. So a lot of effort has been put by us, once we have bought the CDs, to manually copy all the information of the CDs and put it on an open repository online. And the one we have decided to use is MusicBrainz. MusicBrainz is a very nice tool platform that is used internationally to gather information mainly about CDs. Of course, it was not meant to be used for Indian music, so we are collaborating with them to make this tool suited for the type of metadata that Indian music has. So this has been a very interesting collaboration with the community and with MusicBrainz, and we have been helping them, and they have been helping us in making that available. So all this is definitely open. This is all under Creative Commons license. So all this information is, the editorial metadata is not copyrighted, it's just the audio. So this is all available, and it's very good complementary information. Even a lot of research can be done just from this data. And Music Brains has millions and millions of CDs from music from all kinds of styles with editorial metadata. Normally, again, the data is not so good. Our case, I believe, I'm quite happy of what we have done, and the quality of information that we have put is very good. Other types of information is like the expert information, like the one we can extract from Wikipedia, and we're encouraging people to add quality information there. Also information from all the articles, and we use Mendeley as a repository of all that, so that's very good. But anyway, in general, the data status of the 5 music traditions, some things are quite good. In Carnatic music, as you see, is the best one. So this, again, that's why I believe we can target quite a few interesting projects here. So this is the situation. And just now, very quickly, because I just want to finish, the specific topics that we have been working on are like tonic identification, and there will be some talks about that. I think this is the topic that we can claim that we kind of have solved. And this was quite new when the project started. There was very little work done there, and I am very happy to see that there is something that we have accomplished good results and good enough to be really used in actual user situations. Another project has been in intonation. That's not a solved problem. We are still working on it, but we have done good progress on it, and you will hear some of that. Motivic analysis, maybe this is the single most obvious problem that needs to be solved for Indian classical music, that is relevant, I believe. And you will hear quite a bit of that. So trying to identify what are melodic patterns, what are the motifs that characterize raga, characterize an improvisation, characterize something, and allows us to navigate through music collections. So you'll hear quite a lot about that. And of course, the complementary one on rhythm analysis. Also, you will hear some work on that. We have been working very much. Apart from these other music traditions, there is other problems that are very important. There is some traditions like Turkish music that score is a fundamental aspect. The scores are much more relevant than in the case of Indian music. So the usage of scores in music analysis is fundamental. And in there, the linking between the scores and the audio to be able to have a joint kind of data that we can study has been an important topic, and we are working on that. Ontologies, you will hear some of that, the idea of how to represent all these data in a structured way, and in a way that then machines can process it and can extract knowledge out of that, is very much related with this concept of ontologies, and we have been working on that, and you will hear some. In fact, the next talk, you will hear about that. And just finally, the last topic, which is in this case, of course, it could be studied in any tradition, but in the case of Beijing Opera, is very interesting, is the relationship between lyrics and music. In the case of Chinese music, it's very interesting because I guess, as you all know, Chinese is a tonal language. Therefore, not any music can be rendered with any lyrics, with any text. So the relationship between text and music is very relevant and very tied together in Beijing Opera, like I guess in other traditions, but maybe not as much. So it's a very interesting topic that we are working on. And then finally, well, the concept of music exploration as a research topic by itself is, again, is the concept of evaluation for us, but the way how to, with all this research, how to explore music, what ways we can use to navigate through music, that's a research topic by itself that includes many disciplines, and you will also see some of that results. So basically, as a conclusion, we already halfway through, and we have been, I think, quite good at advancing in some things. We have a very clear problem definition in all traditions. I think we have a quite clear problem definition that we are targeting. The corpora, in some cases more than others, but we have a decent Researchcorpora to start doing very interesting work, so that's good. Methodology, at the beginning of the project, we wanted to do research in music cognition, and we wanted to do research in human-computer interaction, so we had to narrow down, and so now I think we have narrowed down the areas, the methodologies that we use in a way that I think we can get good results from that, and it's quite clearly, and we have the expertise to work on that. And finally, in terms of the evaluation, of course, we haven't carried the actual evaluation, but at least we have identified the system that we can evaluate, and with which then we can involve users and start trying to get feedback and of our research results. So anyway, so now we just have to carry out the research, and hopefully in the next 2.5 years we'll be able to get even more interesting results than the ones you're going to hear today and tomorrow. So thank you very much.